Hello. Thank you for that lovely welcome that I get every week now. It's so nice. Where's the too much light coming from? It's coming from here. Let's turn it off. There. That's more humane. I'm harder to see, but I'm happier, which is what matters. I hope that you are well and holding up well, okay, under the circumstances. It's been it's a challenging week. I think every week for the next little while will be challenging. While the weather is good, I'm trying to make the most of that because there's going to be a long period where the weather is not good. And that, for those of us who live in intemperate climates, will be a challenge since all of my socialization occurs outside. But yeah, it's really lovely to be here. I hope that the clues were hard enough, but not too hard. And that everybody who wanted to be here was able to get here. Yeah, and I'm sorry to all the people. Yeah, I know this is a hard thing because I want to make it hard. But what I really want to do is encourage people to work together. Like I really want to encourage people to find ways to work together. That's that's the goal here, is to build collaborative relationships, because I think, one, that's the only way that anything ever gets done, and two, that's where like real strength and connection is, and there's not enough of that on the internet today. So yeah. I'm hoping that this will work over time. I'm going to read to you today. I'm going to read more from the story that I've been working on, fiction story, because it's helpful. And this is a lot rawer and also like more personal in some ways, more uncomfortable, harder to talk, harder to read. So I feel like I feel like I'm going to try to read it, and then if I start to feel weird about it, I'm going to stop. And I assume that you'll be fine with that because you're very supportive. The only other thing is, like, please don't share this outside of Nerdfighteria. Like, I think it's fine to share it with people in the community or people you know and trust. I just don't want it like getting out into the public, because I want to be able to work on it without having like social and economic pressure put on me to produce something on a schedule, which I'm not good at. And also, one of, since 2007, I've worked really hard to make sure that, or insofar, and I've also been very lucky, but I've worked hard to make sure that insofar as possible, I publish things when I feel like they're done, and not before then. And I don't want to be put in a situation where I can't do that. So thanks in advance for keeping it private, except for, nice people. People, yeah. Okay. So I think when we left our young protagonist Kai, he was on the climbing up the hill to the Hotel Bel Air, like the moth in Studio Todd's joke. And somebody pointed out that like the walk from the Paramount lot to the Hotel Bel Air is like 16 hours long or something. Yeah, thank you for that. I'll fix that eventually. But for those of you who weren't here last time, I tried to include a link to last time's stream so that maybe some of you could have a chance to watch it if you didn't solve the last clue before watching this stream. But I don't know. That was probably asking too much. There was a lot going on. But this is a story about two kids who are both in a movie. It's very much a fictional story. It is not about any of the kids I know. It is. I mean, I make up, when I write fictions, I make up stories for the hopeful benefit of other people. So this is a made up story, but it is also, of course, like I have relied a little bit on, a lot on my own experiences, more on my own experiences than anyone else's, but also on friends. Okay. So I think he just goes to bed at the Hotel Bel Air, and then boom, here we are. I was woken up the next morning by a phone ringing. Not my phone, the hotel phone. Hello? Good morning, Mr. Laramie. I've got Brian Arawas here to see you. I rolled over and looked at the clock. It was 8:12, more than an hour before the breakfast. I'll be down in 5 minutes. Brian Arawas is the director that he's meeting for breakfast, who's directing Gods of Andromedon, the big tentpole $150 million movie that Kai is being considered for like a small-ish but important part in. I brushed my teeth, put on a Mekon's t-shirt and yesterday's jeans, and began the long journey down to the lobby. The sun was brighter than seemed necessary. Brian Arawas was standing outside the lobby waiting for me. He wore excellent Ray-Ban sunglasses, a neatly trimmed beard, and a close-cropped haircut that appeared to be less than a day old. Arawas had been an actor before he'd become a director, and although his hair was graying, he still looked fit and handsome, and also aware of being fit and handsome. Kai, he said as he approached, arms out. We hugged. There's a lot of hugging in Hollywood. Kai, I apologize for being 1 hour and 17 minutes early for our breakfast, but I am a punctual person and an enthusiastic one, and I literally couldn't wait to meet you. Where should we eat? I don't really know Los Angeles, I said. Amazing. Never get to know it. Stay golden, pony boy. You're a New Yorker, right? Or possibly a Floridian? Well, no one's perfect, he said, smiling out of the corner of his mouth. We'll go to the Algernon. In the car, a silver Audi A8 with a white leather interior, I told Brian that I'd loved his last movie, a one-off film in the X-Men universe about a mission to free mutants at a prison camp. Yeah, he said. We basically got to remake The Great Escape, but with superheroes. We had an awesome time. The studio watered down the political message of the film, but, that's Hollywood. They all love freedom and justice until they want to sell a movie in China, and then we have to respect that many forms of government can be legitimate. Have you read the book yet? Most of it, I said. I tried to say something about how much I liked the character I'd auditioned for, but I was just rambling. I said that Gavin reminded me of me, which wasn't really true. He mostly reminded me of other scribes from other fantasy novels I'd read. Brian nodded, but he didn't say anything in response, and I wondered if I'd ruined my shot at the part before we even got to the restaurant. We turned onto Sunset Boulevard, where traffic was crawling. You ever see the Tarantino film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? He asked me. Yeah, I said. All of Quentin's films are about wish fulfillment, and that one imagines the most wish fulfillment-y alternate history of them all, a world in which there is no traffic on Sunset Boulevard. Is Gavin really the character you identify most with in the story? No, I said. I didn't think so. Who is? Bolividier? I don't know how to say this person's name that I made up. Bolividier? Bolivadier. You know what? I'm going to put in an R because that's supposed to be the reference. There we go. Boulevardier. Boulevardier, I said, who was married to the queen but had no official power because the world of Gods of Andromeda had matriarchal rule. Also, in their world, you became queen when you got married, which was always on your 16th birthday, and you only got to be queen until you are 30. There's a lot of rules in Gods of Andromeda. Brian nodded. I've talked to probably 40 actors about that role, and not one of them has pronounced Boulevardier's name correctly. Not even the author of the book behind the book. Not one of them has pronounced Boulevardier's name correctly until you. I started to tell him that was only because I was listening to the book rather than reading it, but I stopped myself. I just love how he supports his queen and he really believes in all the rules of Andromeda, but he still finds a way to be influential, I think he really loves her, but he also knows that loving her is a way to be close to her, and being close to her is a way to have a say in whether the war happens. Yes, Brian said. Yes, each character explores a human journey in the story, and Boulevardier shows us how people travel from the power of love to the love of power. Brian paused as he pulled into the parking lot and said, I don't want to create false expectations, though. I love what you say about Boulevardier, but I really see you as a Gavinth, okay? I nodded and said something to the effect that I saw myself as a Gavinth as well. The Algernon was a vegan breakfast joint, and we were immediately seated outside on a small patio next to the restaurant's parking lot. Brian recommended I ordered something called Today's Harvest, so I did. It was basically sliced avocado and sliced tomato drizzled with red vinegar, only it cost $37. One thing that bothers me about Los Angeles is its complete lack of self-awareness. Like a baby that doesn't know there's anything weird about shitting in a diaper. Los Angeles doesn't know there's anything weird about charging $37 for uncooked plants. Speaking of which, Brian was waxing extremely poetic about this epic fantasy novel. In the film I want to make, Gavin's journey charts perhaps the most important question in the movie. How does a tool become a weapon? Think of a stone axe, for instance. It was likely first used as a tool, but at some point it came to be used as a weapon to harm other human beings. In both cases, the stone axe was powerful, but as a weapon, it became an instrument with which to enforce power, right? And that's Gavin's pen, I said. That is Gavin's pen, Brian answered, smacking the stone of our little table. It starts out as the tool through which laws and decrees travel from the courts to the people, and then it becomes a metaphorical weapon when Gavin writes the declaration of war against the Perniads. And then it becomes a literal weapon of war when it is melted into the handle of the sword. Yes, you totally get this, Kai. You get the journey. I feel like we're already on the journey together. Do you feel that? Am I making up this feeling? No, yeah, totally, I said. But the real question, Brian said, is how the weapon journeys back to being a tool. Having opened the Pandora's box of violence, how do we return to a state of peace? That's why in the sequels, I think we'll see Gavin struggling with his sword both literally and metaphorically. There are sequels? Oh, yes, Valentina has 3 novels planned. The second one is already finished. I've seen an outline for the third. I don't want to spoil Gavin's journey for you, but in the end, he is once more holding the pen. Sounds cool, I said. Yeah, I like that arc. Tell me about your familiarity with swords, he said. And I laughed a little because I thought he was kidding, but he wasn't. Again, the baby doesn't know that it's weird to shit in a diaper. Limited, I said. I remembered Keanu telling me about how he got to the last round of auditions for Point Break, and they asked him if he could surf, and he said, "Of course I can surf. I'm Keanu Reeves," even though he'd never been surfing in his life and wasn't even a very good swimmer. I've got a dance background, though, I said, and sword fighting is mostly dancing. I love it, Brian said. I love that. I'm stealing that. The way you move in Pro Patria Mori, it's just absolutely spellbinding. I swallowed a bite of avocado and said, "Thanks. Yeah, no, it was a great part." My stomach was turning a little, even though I didn't know why. That's a lie. I knew why. Juniper's so good in it, isn't she? Ah, yes, the studio's favorite Agrippa, he said. Right, she's got the part, right? Yes, we're bringing her in for chemistry reads tomorrow. What was she like to work with? We only had a few scenes together, I said, but she's amazing. She's so prepared. She's just like incredibly competent and professional and brilliant, and most of all, just extremely ready. You never have to worry with her. You know, my worry, Brian said, is that she's too prepared. So studied that at times she may lack that improvisational spark, the range that comes with being open to the moment. I don't know that she has that. She's more of a Bach than a Beethoven, if you catch my meaning. I tend to be most deeply attracted to Bachs. I did not actually catch his meaning. I really like her, I said. I think she's got spark. Well, you're certainly wonderful collaborators, although, of course, I'm sure you understand that there are many great actors interested in your part. Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, I'm sure you'll find the right person. Well, once that's all settled, hopefully this week we'll have you in for chemistry reads. The tool to the weapon, Kai. That's what I want you to hold in your head and your heart. The tool to the weapon. Right, I said. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the breakfast, man. It's really cool to meet you. It is very cool to meet you as well, he said. The ride back to the Hotel Bel Air was a little awkward, only because it felt like the conversation was over and now it had to continue for another 20 minutes. But I arrived at last, and he got out of the car to hug me before getting back in and told me he would love to work with me. And I said that, yeah, of course, I would love to work with him too. And then I was walking back to my room, my stomach feeling a little churny, when I saw Bob and Zoe sitting at a table outside the Bel Air's restaurant. "Kai!" he shouted. "Funny seeing you here." Bob enveloped me in a hug as he said, How was it? He was a large man, not so much fat as just large in every imaginable direction. It was good, I think, I answered as I shook Zoe's hand. I liked Zoe. She shook hands. She shook hands instead of hugging and wore her hair pulled back tightly in a ponytail. And I liked her because her face never revealed much. She always seemed to be listening without any judgment. So what'd you think of him? Bob asked as we sat down at the table. A waiter appeared and I asked for a cup of coffee. I thought, I don't know, he's kind of pretentious. Yeah, he's a movie director. Well, Catherine is also a director, and she's not like that. A lot of different kinds of directors, kid. Brian's a genius, and like most geniuses, he knows it. I'm just telling you, I got a weird vibe, I said. Zoe cut in. And we're hearing that. What about his vision for the role? Yeah, it seemed cool. I mean, I like his movies, and it's a big movie, I guess. Speaking of which, I've traded calls with business affairs at Paramount, but it looks like around $200,000 up front with a little on the back end, but meaningful. It's meaningful. Is that good? We're going to try to get them up to 250, but they know just like we do that this is a big opportunity for you, an opportunity to be in a movie that a lot of people will actually see. And so they're always going to lowball us. The problem with a movie like this is there's 1,000 20-year-olds they could cast, and they know as well as we do that all those 20-year-olds will do about as well. No offense, kid. So you want the role because it's a good role, not because it'll make you rich. $200,000 seemed pretty rich to me. Okay, I said. So you want to sign the test deal, Bob? I mean, assuming we can get it to 250? I guess, I said. I just wish I wish I loved the director. The script is good, but like it's just another action movie, you know? It's just another action movie made by the guy whose previous action movie generated a combined $2 billion with a B international box office, a guy who literally makes stars for a living. Daisy Ridley made her. Miles Teller made him. Tom Calloway can't act his way out of a fucking parking ticket, and he's the fucking face of Armani because of Brian Arawas. Kai, you pay me to give you advice, and my advice here is that this movie is going to blow up, and you can blow up with it. Honestly, with the amount of money Paramount is putting behind this thing, Gods of Angamanon is going to be Gods of Angamanon could be directed by a freaking artificial intelligence trained by watching Transformers movies, and it would make money. Andromeda, Zoe said. Right, the title's a fucking problem. You and shitty movie titles, Kai. Name a better combination. He belly laughed. I guess I should do it. You should, Zoe said. Zoe's right, Bob said, which is when it occurred to me that Zoe had never been at any of the previous coffees or dinners or lunches I'd had with Bob. She'd always greeted me at the agency, walked me back to Bob's office, asked if I wanted anything to drink, chatted with me until he was available, and then disappeared. I wonder if she'd gotten some sort of minor promotion or if she was just here to convince me to sign the test deal. So if I say yes and I get the part, I have to take it, right? Well, you don't have to do anything. You want us to get you out of it, we'll get you out of it. But yeah, broadly speaking, you're agreeing to a deal that you will take part in the event that you get the part. Now, nothing's set in stone right now. Zoe reached into her bag and produced a contract. This is written with you getting 250, Bob said, in the hopes that they'll be like, well, he's already signed the paperwork. Might as well give him the extra 50 grand so we don't have to bother with more paperwork. Does that work? Yeah, it'll appeal to their fear, and they'll make the deal. They're very fear-based. I mean, fear runs this town, Kai. Fear that someone else will get the thing that's so special, so unprecedented, so once in a lifetime. And in that case, that thing is me. That thing is fucking you, kid. You are the thing. So I signed the test deal. Have there been too many observations in which the boy is turned into an object of some kind? Mayhaps. But on the other hand, I mean, sometimes you can't put that stuff in enough times for people to get it. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm on the fence. Yeah. You know. It seems like something that somebody might say to me. So it doesn't seem impossible. All right, I'm going to read another chapter. I felt like taking a nap when I got back to my room, but Ellen was coming by at 11 to run scenarios, and it was already 10:45, so I took a quick shower and changed, and then she was at my door. "Good morning," she sang when I opened the door. "It's a beautiful day for media training. Let's have class outside." She pulled the glass door open and sat out on the Chase Lounge with her iPad. I wondered what Ellen's life was like. I couldn't tell how old she was. 30? 40? I'd make a terrible bouncer. "Do you have any pets?" I asked. "I'm on the road too much. I used to have a cat. What happened?" Well, yeah, she's just gotten a divorce between yesterday and today. The line is, I also used to have a wife. They disappeared together, which is for one thing, like too clever by half. But for another thing, it just like I like her being married. Why did I unmarry her? Okay, I've rewritten it. I used to have a cat. What happened? It died, Kai. Thanks for asking. I'm sorry. Right. So you're going to be part of the junket. You'll be paired in interviews with Juniper, and you'll talk to a variety of media outlets in a variety of settings. In the morning, you'll likely do televised interviews. You and Juniper will be seated next to each other, and a reporter will come in and ask 7 minutes worth of questions and then depart. And then after a minute or so, another reporter will enter. This is a tedious process. No one particularly enjoys it, but you must concentrate because any mistake can be catastrophic. You'll recall, for instance, when Morgan Freeman fell asleep during a junket interview, or when Alfred Bander said a bad word, like the worst word. I feel like it's pretty easy not to say the worst word, I said. Great, that actually makes you better than half of my clients. So, right, those interviews will be part of the junket. Then you'll also do roundtable interviews with reporters from print or online. 7 or 8 people with tape recorders gathered at a table, and they'll ask you questions and you'll answer. And then we do 1 or 2 big profiles. I'm thinking Jill from the New Yorker, although her like hyper enthusiasm turned me off a little bit, but maybe also the guy you met from the Wall Street Journal. Anyway, they'll spend a day or two with you and write about what a genius you are, unless you're not careful and say something stupid or act like an asshole to them. So tell me about how you prepared for this role. I met with Catherine and we talked about, no, God, did you read the talking points? I nodded unconvincingly, and Ellen rolled her eyes as she continued. I don't know who Catherine is. I'm not a film person. I'm a 37-year-old divorced father of 2 living in the suburbs of Chicago, and I hate my life, and I want to pay $9 to forget about it for 2 hours. What you did was spend 3 days with Jack. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I said, yeah. Juniper and I spent a few days with a young man named Jack who lost his father in Afghanistan. And what was he like? Ellen asked. Cool. He said fuck yeah all the time, even in really inappropriate situations. Like in response to the question, would you like fries with that? He said fuck yeah. Kai, that's interesting, but for our purposes, Jack taught you a lot about what it's like to live with tremendous loss and helped you to understand all the characters in the film. Got it, I said. So, how did you prepare for the role? Juniper and I spent a few days with a young man named Jack in Peoria, Illinois, who lost his father in Afghanistan. He was incredibly generous and kind, and we just learned so much from him about what it was like to live with tremendous loss, and it really helped us understand the characters in this film. Great, but don't say in this film, say pro patria mori. It went on like that for hours. Ellen would move on to the next topic. What was it like to work with Keanu? How do you and Juniper achieve such chemistry in your brief on-screen time together? Why do you think this film is important? And she'd analyze my stupid answers and recraft them, and then she'd circle back to other questions before throwing in something bizarre. If you could say one thing to the president, what would it be? What's your favorite animal? I heard you're dating Keanu. Is that true? No, of course not, I answered. No, of course not, I said in answer to that one. Keanu's married to the sea. I'm very fond of that joke. Ellen laughed and made a note on her iPad. That's so good. I'm going to try to get one of these jackasses to ask it, she said. I mean it, though. Yeah, that's what makes it hilarious, Kai. Are you going to do Gods of Andromeda? I don't know. I signed a test deal, but who knows if I'll get the part. No, no, Jesus, Kai, no. You say I've read the script and it's great, but I don't know what I'll be doing next. I don't even know what I'm doing this evening. Like you told Al in the car, that was a great line. Right, but I wasn't talking to a journalist. I was talking to you. For the next 20 days, Kai, I need you to assume that literally everything you say out loud is going to be printed in a magazine that your grandparents will read. That's a bit dystopian. She just shrugged. On to personal shit that will get dug up about you. You ever been arrested? I shook my head. Here's the thing, Kai. If there's something, say a vertical video of you punching a woman or a racist tweet you wrote when you were a 12-year-old edgelord or whatever, just tell me, because it will be so much easier not to be surprised. I don't tweet, I answered. I've never tweeted. Are we going to have sexual harassment or assault issues? I don't think so. What's your number? Is it in the double digits, triple digits? My number of sexual partners, Kai. Uh, 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 Mid singles? How mid? The literal midest? Oh, you need to get out more, she said. So it's all smooth sailing from you. Where's the iceberg? Your dad's in a weird militia. Your mom's a flat earther. Everybody's got something, Kai. What's your something? I asked her. If I wanted to be forced to discuss my somethings, I would have become an actor. I knew what she was asking about, but I couldn't tell if she knew what she was asking about. You ever been sued? No. You ever sued someone? I reached into my pocket and got out a piece of gum. I like chewing gum, the old-fashioned stick kind. There's this flavor called fresh mint that I've chewed since I was a little kid, and it smells like pine trees in the Florida winter. I unwrapped the gum from its silver foil and started chewing. Ellen asked if I'd ever sued anyone again, and I said no, which was true, but I was pretty sure now that she knew. I could feel the electricity of it in the air, and my chest felt tight. I leaned forward, looking into the warm little splash pool. Among the many things to recommend about fresh mint gum is that when you're chewing it, you can't smell anything else. Ever been a witness in a trial? She asked. I think you know the answer to that, I said, and she didn't say anything. When I was 15 and 16, my drama teacher sort of abused me, or at least did sexual stuff to me. With me, to me, I guess, for me, he would say, this is part of you, he said, part of you we need to bring out. Anyway, he got caught, or more to the point, we got caught, and it turned out there had been others, many others, even though he always said it was only me and that he'd never even thought about a student that way until he saw me for the first time, and whatever. He was a pathological liar. I had to testify at his trial. They kept my name sealed, but they couldn't really keep my name sealed because everybody knew exactly who he got caught with. Yeah, I've been a witness in a trial, I said finally. A teacher molested me or whatever. Don't say or whatever, or molested. Say assaulted. I don't want to say any of those words, Ellen. I'm not talking about it. Is that okay? Okay, Ellen said. Yeah, you're not talking about it. And I will make it clear whenever it comes up that you're not talking about it. But I still need to know about it. Fine, and you do, I said. Right, but you need to be able to tell me those things so that I will not be surprised. And I know part of this sucks, but it comes with the territory. Is there anything else that I need to know about? I don't know. Did anything else come up when you called my friends from high school? Your friends didn't say anything, if that makes you feel any better. I found out from one of your teachers, and nobody has a bad thing to say about you, Kai. They saw the same sweet, sensitive kid I see. The gum was starting to lose its flavor. I could smell the chlorine in the pool again. We done? I asked. You can't be pissed at me for doing my job, Kai. You know how many movies have tanked in the last 10 years because it came out that the actors were fuckwads? Studios have to be careful now. I'm sure you get it. I do get it. I'm just asking if we're done. If you want my advice, you should get it out in front of you and put it behind you. I think Jill at the New Yorker would be careful, and she's obviously a fan. And you've got to remember, you're a victim here. You didn't do anything wrong, but if you hide it, if that's it, I'm going to take a nap, I said. And after a while, Ellen got up and left. The hardest thing in life is to be small, to not have any say over what happens to you or who does it, to be at other people's mercy. I required mercy. I always would. And I hated that. You can't get out in front of that. Not ever. I was 20 years old, and he was in prison, and he still had his goddamn hands all over me. I'm going to keep reading a little bit more. That was a little hard for me. I'm just going to take a second. Sorry. Okay. For whatever reason, I've always been able to fall asleep when I'm sad or angry, and I was both. So I took a deep nap with the kind of unpleasant dreams you don't repeat, especially not if you are to presume that literally everything you say for the next 3 weeks could be read by your grandparents. I awoke to the sound of my phone buzzing, a text from Juniper. I'm freaking out. Can I call you? I told her sure, and she called immediately. I know you're not as worried about this as I am, but don't you feel like the cemetery scene reads almost satirical with that song and the way it's currently cut? Not really, I said. I mean, honestly, Juniper, I feel like my job was during the shoot, and now but it's our careers, Kai. Don't you see that? This is our calling card. Maybe it's different for you and don't take this personally, there are so many good roles for men, but I feel like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for me, and I feel like I failed completely. Like the performance, Juniper, you're good in the movie. But don't you see the inadequacy of good? You don't get to make this your life by being good. What I meant is that you're great in the movie. I could be better if Catherine hadn't chosen again and again the most innocent, doe-eyed, woe is me take that I offered her. I could be better if MIA wasn't rapping in the background of the climactic scene. I come across as so one note in the film. You don't, really. Also, I like MIA. Well, while you just show so much range and depth of feeling, she said. Juniper, you're good in the movie. I don't know how else to say it. You made me cry. You do seem innocent in it, but that's why it's so heartbreaking. You're not ready for the shit you have to live through, but you live through it anyway. I just can't calm down, she said. Yeah, I can hear that. After a minute, she said, do you want to see a movie that we're not in? She sounded shy when she said it. Innocent, even. Yeah, I said, I'd like that. Can it be something terrible? She laughed. Indeed, it must be something terrible. Juniper told me she'd be at my hotel in half an hour. I got up and showered again. I wasn't hungry, but I knew I should eat something, so I took some peanut M&Ms from the minibar and ate them while sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing one of the hotel's extremely nice bathrobes. I was thinking, and I've always been a slow thinker, slow at everything, really. I thought through the entire bag of peanut M&Ms, and then I called Bob. William Morris Endeavor, said a polite voice. I told them who I was and got patched through to Bob immediately. It used to be that all my calls went through Zoe, who'd tell me that Bob was in a meeting and would call me back. But now I went straight from the operator to Bob himself, who said, "What's up, kid?" "Say no," I said. "What?" "Say no to Gods of Andromeda. I don't want to do the chemistry reads, even if they cast Juniper. I'm sorry. I just don't want to do it." "Can I give a reason?" "Yeah, I don't want to spend 4 months in Canada playing somebody's little brother." Bob didn't say anything, which was so unusual for him that I figured he'd hung up on me. But after a while, he laughed and said, "I fucking love it. 4 months in Canada playing somebody's little brother. I love it. You've got the gift, kid. You know just how to put shit. I'll let him know." And then he hung up. By the time I got downstairs, Juniper was waiting outside for me in a silver SUV. For some reason, I was surprised to learn that she could drive. As we inched toward the theater in traffic, Juniper kept starting to say something critical about the movie and then stopping herself. I wanted to tell her that I just turned down the test deal for Andromeda, but she kept starting and stopping sentences before finally saying, I just literally can't stop thinking about it, she told me. I'm sorry, I know it's annoying. I just want the film to be special, to be significant. What even makes a movie significant? I asked. Everybody keeps talking about how good the movie is or whether the movie is good, but like, what makes a movie good? Like, what's the point of making movies? Is it to make people happy? If that's the case, the movie is terrible. Is the point to make people cry? Then it's brilliant. Is the point to like reveal some deep truth about the human condition? Then I think it's like good, but not great. Yeah, that's the problem. It could reveal something deep about the human condition if it weren't for the goddamn MIA song. Offered Juniper a stick of gum. She declined. I unwrapped it and began to chew as I looked up showtimes on my phone. There's a Robin Hood movie that's 15% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, but 48% of users liked it, I said. Much too high, she said. I agree. Wait, I think I've got it. If you don't mind waiting until 4:50, we can see Norse Redemption, 8% fresh. The Guardian says, one grows accustomed in this line of work to bad films, but Norse Redemption is truly extraordinary in its failures. Although presumably it is cold in Norway or Sweden or wherever this 97 minutes of ridiculousness is set, the men are always shirtless and slathered in sweat, which is the sole blessing of the film. The performances of the actors' pectoral muscles far exceed that of their faces. Well, said Juniper, doesn't that just seem literally perfect? And it was. We were alone in the movie theater, and so we got to shout at the screen all through Norse Redemption, which was so much funnier than any comedy could be. At one point, the main bad guy says, no gods, no kings, only Odin. And Juniper said, I'm pretty sure Odin is a god. And then I said, no gods, no kings, only certain gods. No gods, no kings, only one queen, Medivh, Juniper added. No gods, no kings, only our omniscient creator, I said. Omnipotent. No gods, no kings, only our omnipotent creator, I said. Omnipotent, Juniper said, correcting my pronunciation. If you're so smart, I answered, how come you're watching Norse Redemption? As we walked out of the movie, it was starting to get dark. Well, that certainly improved my opinion of Pro Patria Mori, Juniper said. Right? Was there a woman in that film? She asked. Sure, I said. The maiden at the beginning. Oh, right, the sexualized object that was dragged away by the villain so that we could internalize the villain's true villainy. Yeah, also the mother. Right, of course, the desexualized object who provided food and blankets for the human characters. I think between them they had like 8, maybe 10 lines, I said. I guess the one good thing about Andromeda, Juniper said, Medivh does have some depth, carries some action, and I thought the love story between her and Garon is actually pretty sweet. Like, they've got a good obstacle. It's a structurally sound film. It's just about orcs, I said. Yes, she said. Quite right. I stopped at the edge of the parking lot and said, I passed on the little brother. She looked over at me, a little surprised and a little smiling. Did you really? Right then, I saw someone in the parking lot with a large camera taking our picture. The camera made a loud snapping sound, and the bearded guy behind it said, What movie did you see? We didn't say anything. Why'd you pass on it? She asked. Let's talk about it in the car, I said. How long have you been dating? Asked the man. I was just frozen there until Juniper grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the car. We got in, and she drove away. That was weird, she said. Did you tell anyone you'd be here? I told Katie I was going to a movie with you. I'm supposed to keep her informed of everywhere I go. Whatever, it's just a photographer. I looked at Juniper, at her sundress, at her makeup. Did you dress up for him? For who? For the fucking photographer, I said. And I knew that it was a little angrier than I wanted it to be. Christ, Kai, it was a photographer. We're actors. We are in a movie that will hopefully be big. If Katie sent him there, she was doing her job. She's a publicist. She gets me publicity. But did you dress up for him? Calm the fuck down, she said. I asked again, and then after a long pause, she said, I'm not dressed up, okay? If I want to dress up, you'll know that I'm dressed up. And I thought, and if I thought about anyone when I chose this particular dress, it was you. So I guess thank you for noticing. Sorry, I said after a second. I feel like I can't tell what is real right now. Why aren't you testing for Andromeda? Don't you want to spend 4 months with a neurotic actress who can't stop giving notes? I took a long breath. I was thinking maybe I wasn't cut out for this, but then I also wasn't cut out for anything else. I don't know. I had breakfast with the director this morning and I just didn't like him. Not my kind of person. Yeah. But he's a genius, she said. Did he tell you about Gavin's journey from the tool to the weapon? Yeah, it just seemed kind of pretentious for a movie about orcs. But don't you think such films need a dash of pretension so that they don't become Norse redemption? I shrugged. I don't know. I like you. It's not about you. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Like I said. She glanced over at me and smirked a little. But how can that be, Kai, when I am the axis upon which the world spins? It has to be about me. I laughed, and then she changed the subject so gracefully I almost didn't notice. Do you think the men of Norse Redemption knew they were in a bad movie? Sure, I said. And they just, what, accepted it? Yeah, I guess. When she dropped me off at the hotel, she said, no gods, no kings, only Odin. And I laughed a little and got out of the car. I was walking back to my room when I saw Ellen pacing on one of the Hotel Bel Air's small but immaculate lawns. Hey, I said. Ah, Jesus, fuck, Kai, where have you been? At a movie with Juniper? I know you were at a movie with Juniper. I mean, where has your phone been? In my pocket? With the power off? Yeah, I turned it off because I was at a movie and you're supposed to turn off your phone. They make a big deal out of it at the beginning. I was feeling defensive, and feeling defensive made me speak in questions, which I didn't reflect there, but I'll fix it later. Jesus, Kai, you don't turn off your phone ever. And if you'd kept your phone on, you would have received my text and or calls about the photographer who Katie sent to take your picture with Juniper, and you might have had a second to go into the washroom and fix your hair, but whatever. I'm sure Juniper grabbed your hand at just the right moment, and it's all fine. But please, God, do not turn off your phones for the phone for the next 20 days, okay? Did you say the washroom? I grew up in Canada, all right? We all have our crosses to bear. Don't turn off your phone. Got it, I said, and reached into my pocket to turn on my phone. Also, myself, Todd, Katie, Lon, and a few people at the studio, we're having drinks at 8. If you want to stop by, we'll be at the Cavendo. Okay, I said. Should I invite Juniper? Ellen squinted a little. I'm not sure the studio folks are really looking for Juniper's vibe right now. Like, I suspect they want a quiet evening at which they don't have to defend every creative choice made in a film that test audiences adore. I nodded and then went up to my room and ordered room service. I tried watching TV, but I couldn't find anything good. I was thinking about calling my dad when Bob called. Kai, Christ, kid, you scared the piss out of me. I've called 15 times in the last 2 hours and it went straight to voicemail. I was at a movie with Juniper. Well, at least somebody still goes to the goddamn theater. Can I say goddamn? Well, at least somebody still goes to the goddamn theater. Can I say goddamn, Zoe? It's 7 p.m. and I'm so tired of answering your vaguely bigoted rhetorical questions, Bob. Zoe got a promotion and it really went to her head, kid. So listen, I told the studio you don't want to play someone's brother, and they got it. And then I got a call back from Tom fucking Rothman, and he said, what do you want? Says they need somebody for the new Jurassic World. They also always need new X-Men. And then he says, get this, then he says, I understand a talented kid like Kai not wanting to play somebody's brother, but what if he auditioned for the somebody? Wait, what? They want you for, I can't remember the fuckwad's name. Garon, the lead? Garon? Yes, yeah. Technically second lead behind the girl. 400,000 guaranteed, back end pretty good. Kai, this movie makes money, you make money, and I'm not a psychic, but do you know how when you get Ebola and you bleed out of your eyes and ears? No, I'm not going to include it. No. I already have that joke. I have a better version of that joke earlier. We'll figure that out later. This is a movie that's going to make a lot of money. You even get a little cut of the video game they're doing for the movie. Leading man is Juniper, the lead. What is her name? I can't remember. Whatever her name is, I don't remember. What are with these names? I'll talk to them about the names. Yeah, you're opposite Juniper if she gets it, which word is she will, because she actually lobbied for you to get the guy, Gareth, whatever his name is. Two kids who are absolutely exploding take their first big movie, and of course they take it together because they're so tight. They like each other. They're buds. Maybe they're more than buds. Ellen talked to you about that, right? Yeah, about being tight with Juniper. I don't give a shit what you do in your free time, kid. This is just how it needs to look. You get it. So these two kids, breakouts, known chemistry. It's gold. It's fucking platinum. I love that you said that you didn't want to be somebody's brother. I love it. And now you aren't going to be. Let me tell them yes. Let me tell them that you're here and that you will be here on Friday, totally ready for Gavin's chemistry reading with Juniper and the three other guys that they've got going for it. Let me sleep on it. Kid, it does not get any bigger than this. I just want to sleep on it. We'll talk in the morning. Good night, Duke of the Manor. Am I allowed to say Duke of the Manor, Zoe? Oh, I'd recommend maybe. I'm real tired, Bob. Zoe's my spirit guide to contemporary life. Can I say spirit guide? I wouldn't, to be honest, if it were me, but it's obviously not. Great. Kid, get some sleep. I'll talk to you in the morning. He hung up. It's getting real messy now, but I is this the one that I want to read? But I kind of want to keep going. It's so messy now, but like the names are always changing, which is always a sign that it's very messy. But it's still helpful to me. All right. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to read just a little bit more. I didn't know what to do. I probably should have called my dad or a friend or something, but I was tired of talking to people, and I knew what they would say. Of course, you take a shot at being the consort to the Ice Queen. 8 months ago, you were waiting tables and not in a good restaurant. A year and a half ago, you were in high school. You've been in exactly one movie. It has a Latin title. Nobody sees movies with Latin titles. Gods of Andromeda is good work, and you're in the world to work. I started to reread the script. It was slow going. There wasn't really much dialogue in it. All Garen's lines seemed like the kind of dialogue that can be easily translated into other languages. Minimal adjectives, action verbs, a lot of broad observations like, we will destroy the enemy or the enemy will destroy us. At one point, he literally says, my dear queen, the power of love is no match for the love of power. And then there were the long descriptions of battle scenes, many of which I couldn't follow. Garon was identified as shirtless, but for his golden armor. But still, I could see a lot to like in the movie. He wanted to be the hero of the story, and his choices all made sense, which was a lot more than can be said for most screenplays. My drama teacher told me that theater was all about building toward a recognition and then a reversal, and that it had been like that since Aristotle. And Garon had a hell of a recognition. 2/3 of the way through the movie, he realized that if he backed the invading army over his wife, he could become the king. And he begins to undermine her. But even at the end, with him mostly a villain, you could still feel that he loved his wife. I got out of bed where I'd been reading and walked into the other room in my suite. The champagne that had been on ice was now floating in slightly chilled water. I opened the bottle, then went outside, stripped, got into the little plunge pool, and uncorked the bottle. The cork flew up into the sky over a little fence at the edge of my patio and disappeared. It was dark in LA, but not really, of course, because it never gets all the way dark. It got some kind of grayish orange. $400,000, $360 after Bob's commission. I'd probably have to hire Ellen or Ann Ellen. That'd be 25 or 30, I figured. After taxes, I might end up with around $200,000 cash. $200,000, and all I had to do was spend 4 months in Vancouver and maybe 1 month doing promotion. Why was I even thinking about it? I should just call Bob now. $200,000 cash, free and clear. I liked thinking those words, the shape of them. $200,000. I took a sip of the champagne. It was too warm and so bubbly it went up my nose a little bit. I wondered why I was drinking it, why I was sitting in this plunge pool in my underwear at the Hotel Bel Air, drinking straight from a bottle of warm champagne. And I realized I was doing it as a kind of performance. I was doing it because it looked cool, even though I was the only person who could see how cool it looked. I remembered something my roommate Natalie had said to me once, that there should be a word for the distance between your actual life and your Instagram life. I got out of the pool, grabbed my clothes, went inside, and emptied the champagne down the sink. I didn't want anyone to think I'd wasted it. I think I'll stop there for now. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I've got for now. Um um I've got more. I have more, but it, it just like you already feel it sort of like unraveling plot wise, and that gets worse, as it always does in my stories. So yeah, I mean, but there's stuff to work with there. I think there's also stuff that I'm like deeply on the fence about and conflicted about and troubled by, and you know how it is. I'm looking to see how much more I have that I could read. I mean, maybe one more week, but then it's going to get real. Real weird. uh, I'm just looking real quick. Yeah, so I'm interested in the relationship between Juniper and Kai. I'm interested in Kai himself and how obviously difficult it is for him to figure out if he wants to have a public life and what the possible costs of those public lives are, and how his how how difficult it can be to live with a to live with traumatic memories when people have an expectation of your life being public. So yeah, I mean that's all. Yeah, that's all. That's the hard. That part is those parts are hard for me. I think that the key, I think, to making it work, I don't know. I think it's really important that once Kai is describing the experience of acting, you see how wonderful it is for him, how cathartic it is, how amazing it feels to not be inside of himself, to to be in in a feeling like he's inside of a magical space with another person, when he's acting with someone, and that feeling is really wonderful and transformative for him, and it allows him to, in some ways it's the gift that allows him to live the life that that to live as well as he can. And so you really need to see that and feel that when he does the test with Juniper, Because if you see that and feel that, then you understand that he genuinely, I don't think, I mean, there's things about fame that are seductive, and I think, obviously he should be seduced by those things. But what it is that there's a thing that he loves and that he's really, really good at, and that allows him to feel free from the stuff that is very difficult for him to live with. And so, that's real. Yeah. I actually think that most of the actors I know are not interested in being famous. They see being famous as a byproduct, and like not necessarily a desirable byproduct. When you get close, like when you get to be close to people who are really famous, my experience anyway is that like it stops being it stops being attractive. Like it stops being something that you would want. Yeah. So I think I don't know if it's about front loading some of that a little bit, like having a scene where we see that earlier, but I don't know, I kind of like this part building to that scene, and then you see how much he loves it, and you see how liberating it is for him, and how like when he and Juniper are in that, they are magical together. Like literally magical, in the sense that like they really don't feel like themselves. They really don't, they really are able to disappear into it and trust their beating hearts, as they say. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's complicated. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you have questions, let me know. Lorena says I would probably have a mishap early on and become an infamous meme. Yeah, like I said some really stupid things in press junket interviews, and well, a couple of them have really stayed with me, and like people still, even though I regret the stupid things that I said, and obviously like I said them in a context that made sense to me, and I wasn't saying them to be hurtful. Like they had a hurtful effect, and they do still kind of like tag along with me. And that's that sucks. But it's just so hard to keep your attention in those press junkets. Cause it really is. I mean, it's 7 minutes over and over and over again for hours. And so you answer hundreds of questions, and you're really struggling to keep your focus and attention careful. And if somebody asks you a question that that you haven't carefully rehearsed an answer, and especially if it's a place where there's a lot of nuance that has to go into the conversation, it's really easy to mess it up. And I have definitely experienced what that's like a couple times. And yeah, to me, it's a bad feeling, because mostly a bad feeling because you've said something hurtful. Do you have a working title? It's The Junket is the working title. But I don't know. Porter asks, should I move to Norway? Which is not something I can answer. I don't know. The best state park in Indiana is Brown County State Park, because it's overwhelmingly the best. I go camping there or every year with my friends, and it's great. We have a great time. We're not going this year because of COVID. Did you talk with any actors or directors to get background info on the Hollywood life for the book? Well, I mean, yeah, in the sense that like I'm friends with actors and directors and producers. But I wouldn't say I did it as research. I just I was pretty deeply enmeshed in that world for, I mean, I'm still involved in it, but I was deeply in it for 3 or 4 years of, you know, having to talk to, yeah, like having to put things together and trying to get things made and trying to get them made well. And the challenge of that, and all the stuff that's hard about that. Yeah. Uh, how do you write about experiences you didn't have? I write about experiences I didn't have, hopefully with humility, and by listening, by paying careful attention to other people's experiences, but also by like paying careful attention to my experience and being able to transpose that experience to a different experience, right? Like if you're thinking about, like, for example, if I'm writing about like In the Fault in Our Stars, or Turtles All the Way Down is a better example. I don't know what it's like to be a teenage girl with OCD, but I do know what it's like to have OCD. And that allows me, or that I hopefully that allowed me enough empathy into Aza's experience to imagine, well, like, if I had these obsessive worries and I use these compulsive behaviors to try to manage them, what kind of challenges does that pose when you're, a 16-year-old girl, which, is a very different situation than one I've ever been in. And I haven't been a teenager in a long time, regardless. But hopefully that. So there's always a points of connection. I am reluctant to talk about my autobiography in the context of fiction these days, just because it becomes so front and center. Like it becomes such a primary thing. Like I talked about this in the Anthropocene Reviewed, but it was surreal and troubling to be asked by a journalist, like, do you get panic attacks when you kiss your wife the way Aza gets panic attacks when she kisses her boyfriend? And that's just not, I mean, as it happens, I don't, but like, that's just not a question I want to ever, it's not a question I want to answer. Like, it's not, I don't want to discuss it. Like, I think I have invited all of this by having such a public life, and I'm conscious of that. And I know that there's something a little bit, like wanting to have it both ways about saying like, I make video blogs where I talk about my life all the time, but don't ask me this. That said, it either works as fiction or it doesn't. And I'm not sure that, like, if I come in and say like, oh, like this works as fiction because I know something about the experience, I don't know. I am unsettled on this question. I'm unsettled on the role of the relationship between the author and the reader. I'm unsettled on the question of the role between the author and the fiction. I used to feel very settled about this stuff, but now I don't. Now I don't have any certainties. Essentially, like all of my certainties are gone. But yeah, I don't want to be in a situation where I have to talk about stuff I don't want to talk about. That's what it comes down to. And it's hard to know how to do that while still having a public life. And it's a little hard to walk it back. Like, it's a little hard to be like, I had a more public life, but then I changed the way I think about this stuff. And now I don't want to talk about that. Like, that's a little hard. One of the ways that, that people like deal with this is, they'll start a sentence by saying, you've been very public about your struggles with mental health, right? So you'll hear that, like, somebody's interviewing a vlogger or an actor or whatever. You might hear that as the beginning of the question. And that's a way of saying, like, you've got to answer this question because you've been very public about it in the past. And so I don't feel bad about asking it, and you should feel obligated to answer it. But and if I don't answer it, it's not just seen as defensive. At times, it's seen as like, I think at times it's seen as like cowardice, kind of, or an unwillingness to to be a voice for people who live with mental illness, or people who live with traumatic memories or whatever, PTSD or whatever. And so that's a very, like, it's a complicated, difficult thing that I do not feel settled about. And yeah. In press junkets and other interviews, is it okay to say no comment? Usually what happens, and like what would happen in the case of like Kai, is that the publicist Ellen would say, like, we're not talking about that. And that way like Kai doesn't look bad, right? And like you can't even really use it because it's Ellen who says, like, no, we don't discuss that. We're not, that's not an appropriate question. And that's a big part of the reason why those people are in the room. And so, we maybe like, how we feel about Ellen now may not be how we feel about Ellen all the time. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Is the chair squeaking? Probably a little bit. Yeah. I'm reading your comments. Yeah. So Gilly says we see these people as our friends, and so we feel entitled to their vulnerability when we aren't. And that is true. But you have to remember, like, the system has created it so that you see these people as friends. Like, it's not a character flaw in you that you see these people as friends. Like, they designed it that way. Like, and by like they, I both mean like the platforms that that host these conversations, like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Like, when I would go, or like when Taylor Swift would go on Tumblr or Twitter and interact with fans, like, it felt like, oh my, like, she's one of us. She's just, there's that great part of, I can't remember which gossip rag it is, that's like celebrities, they're just like us. And it has like pictures of famous people doing, picking up their laundry, and pictures of famous people going to the grocery store, and pictures of famous people like trying to get their kids to calm down in a parking lot. And it's extremely intrusive and horrible. And I'm, like, we should end paparazzi culture, obviously. But part of what that does, and the way it serves the larger system, is that when you feel like Timothy Chalamet is just a person like you or me, which he is, you feel closer to him. You feel more attached to him. You feel more like you want to go see his next movie and support his projects and follow him on all the social media sites. And then you follow him on all the social media sites, and that feeling of connection just feels more and more real. So both systems, like the entertainment industrial system, that has to produce things that tens of millions of people will pay for, is incentivized to make you feel that way. But then also, like, Twitter and Facebook and Reddit are incentivized to make you feel that way, because that's a big part of how they keep you going on the platform. That's a big part of how they hold your attention on the platform, is by being the place where the world's most beautiful and famous and amazing people share their everyday experiences. And like, I use that. I absolutely use that. Like, and I benefited from that system. Like, I also was harmed by that system, but I benefited from it a lot. And so I can't merely condemn it. And and the other thing is that, like, I've been thinking about this a lot as I've been writing. Like, we love a villain, and we want to create a villain, and we want there to be a bad guy who's responsible for this bad stuff. Even like when I was just telling you that story about about the interview. Like the interviewer is presented as the bad guy, but the interviewer isn't really the bad guy. The interviewer is part of a bad system. The interviewer is like trying to do their job, trying to get a slightly better, more interesting quote than other people got so that they can get slightly more clicks on their article than other people get so that they can go work at a better newspaper or magazine. They're just doing the thing that they do in the system, and I'm just doing the thing that I do in the system. It's the system that's screwed up. And we don't really like stories about corrupt systems with no villains in them, but I might write one anyway. Yeah. Ryan asks if I've intentionally fostered that feeling with Vlogbrothers. No, I don't think. I mean, the honest answer, Ryan, is that I don't feel like it was intentional. I really don't. I don't. But I also don't think that in 2007 or even 2012, Hank and I understood the nature and the power of the tools that we were using. And I don't think we totally understood the way that we were using them. So, like, it wasn't conscious. It wasn't like, oh, I'll go on Twitter to make people to be relatable. Like that never crossed my mind. Like I went on Twitter and I tried to be myself and funny and like to like be present for an audience and be parts of big conversations, especially conversations that included me or my work, and to contribute to those conversations in ways that were hopefully productive and to like maybe make some people happy by saying thank you for reading my book or thank you for this kind message or whatever. That's certainly in my mind, like it wasn't an attempt to like become relatable. But again, like this is but I think the system, I think the system is built to incentivize me to act that way in the same way that the system is built to incentivize fans to feel a certain way. So I think that it's complicated and there's a lot at play. And I really like that. I really like how Hank explored this in his books, which also means that I don't have to explore it because Hank did a great job. So I don't have to worry about it. Thank God. If Emma asks if systems are the villains, who is the hero? The individual? Yeah. So I think, I mean, I don't think individuals accomplish that much alone. I think we mostly get stuff done in collaboration and cooperation with each other. That's why I wanted to do this in the first place, was to have Nerdfighteria have a project where we can collaborate and cooperate together and get to places that we, most of us can't get to alone. Like I think that's the best of the internet for me. So maybe maybe the heroes are the people who work together to say like, we're not going to let the system do that, or like that's past our line and we're not going to allow that. I think both Kai and Juniper are really vulnerable kids, and you get a sense, I hope so far of Kai's vulnerability, and and then in the next part of the story, there's hopefully going to be a sense of Juniper's profound vulnerability. And I think heroism in that case would be like, it's okay if the movie doesn't do as well, but we need to treat these kids like they're 20 years old and not like they're widgets. Hamza maybe says it right. No heroes, no villains, only vibes. Yeah. So to be clear, like, I don't think systems themselves are inherently evil. Like, for instance, I think the sewage treatment system in the city of Indianapolis is a great system. It's not perfect. Sometimes it dumps river into the dirty water into the White River. It's definitely not perfect, but wow, what a system. Nobody in Indianapolis has gotten cholera in over 100 years. There are lots of like really strong, well-functioning systems like that. And so I don't think systems themselves are evil. I just think systems themselves are really, really important, and we sometimes don't pay attention to their importance. Most of the systems that exist to extract value out of the ground or human emotions trouble me a little bit, but I don't think they're. I don't think it's fair to say that they're all evil. Like Adobe Premiere is a system in a way. It's a systemically produced piece of software, and I think it mostly makes the world better. I don't think the world would be worse if Adobe Premiere stopped existing, and I think it would mostly be better. Nana asks, is Vlogbrothers a safe space for you, or has it grown to feel like a burden? It's a safe space for, I mean, I have never been happier with Nerdfighteria. Hank and I did the thing that we did over the last 24 weeks very intentionally as a way of trying to have the kind of community we want instead of having like the biggest possible community. And we've been making that choice for like a year and a half, really, 2 years maybe. And that has made it really fun again and made it feel like it is what we want it to be. And like it is what we originally intended it to be. There was a little while where it was big and unruly, and the comment section felt toxic all the time, and that was rough. It was hard, and I didn't feel then like I could do something like this, and that was a bummer for me, because this for me, like, this is where all the value is. So part of the pleasure of the last 3 years has been like getting off the trending page. And the way that you get off the trending page is you make your thumbnails and your titles worse. And we have just done an amazing job of that. So it's been really great for me. I mean, I feel really just, it feels, I feel like 2008, just back to feeling like the community is way more interesting than anything else Hank or I are involved in. So well, I'm not making a specific reference to any particular thing. We haven't talked about it. We're not talking about it. There is no thing. I don't know what you're talking about. We'll talk. If we ever talk about it, it'll be in the future. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I have to go pretty soon. But it has been fun to not talk about the thing. And as I said, I don't think I said at the beginning, but I will. But I'll go. But going back last week and reading your comments as I read was super, super helpful, and I really appreciate all of your thoughts and the kind words and the constructive ones as well, and both in the comments of the video and in the like live chat. I really appreciated it. Oh, you want a signatures update? There's been I don't know. I sign my name a lot. There's a lot of these. I've got 22,000 of them. So you can see behind me, there's like, this is 50,000. And I've done almost half. So like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like 50,000 is going to be enough. Yeah. Next week, I'll probably just read. Next week, actually, I'll probably read the end of this, or the end of like this part of it, so that we can say goodbye to the junket. at least for the next like 3 to 5 years. Um, and or 1 year. Who knows? Who knows? Nobody knows. And I'll be back to reading essays from the Anthropocene Reviewed again, which is really helpful. It's been so nice to talk with you today, and I really, I really appreciate you being here and solving the puzzles and caring enough to, it just means a lot to me. So thank you, and I hope that that you're doing okay. And well, let's do this again next week, but with a slightly harder set of riddles.